Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our new review of The Blacklist, Season 1, Episode 8, General Ludd. This episode is weird. It is really significantly important for the backstory of Elizabeth Keene. It's the Sam episode more than it is the General Ludd episode, let's be honest.
And I think it's a really important episode to just first really show us the lengths that Reddington will go to protect this secret. He's willing to kill somebody that he cares about, that raised someone he loves to protect this secret. And I think it's a really important episode for that reason.
We have a lot to get into. We're also, we want to talk to you guys a little bit about this General Ludd idea, aka Nathaniel Wolf, the real ringleader here. Is he someone who could come back in season 10? I mean, we're talking a lot about that throughout this rewatch series.
I mean, he is alive. He's still out there, he's in jail, and so it's possible.
Well, before we do go further here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We are here with our rewatch of The Blacklist every single week, talking about different people, the possibilities they could be back. We don't want you guys to miss any of that.
And we just want to take a minute to thank everybody who, has been here with us every single Friday going through the first season of The Blacklist. We really appreciate your guys' suggestion for us to do this. It's been really fun. We've had a really good time doing it and talking with you guys about it every single Friday. So yeah, hit that subscribe button. Thank you to everyone who has, and thank you to everyone who's followed us over on our Instagram at Matt and Jess TV. We just hit 3,500 people over there. We big influencers over there. I'm just kidding, but we do have cute bunny pics over there. So if you haven't followed us, follow us over there.
Okay, let's just get right into the muck here. This is my biggest issue with this episode. This has been like almost a decade-long beef I have with this show. Sam is supposedly enormously important to the mythology of Elizabeth Keene. He is one of the most critical people in this world. However, one episode. The dude is in one episode and not even the full episode. And then Reddington kills him. And it's just really? This is all we are getting on this?
No, I agree. I think that this needed to be over 2 episodes. It didn't have to go on for a long time. Say over the whole season, we see him here and there, because there really was this urgency here in this episode for Reddington, because Sam learns that he's got 6 weeks to live. And because of that, he tells Reddington, listen, I really feel like Liz needs to know the truth. And this is kind of the first time that we see somebody else that knows the truth, or some of the truth, partial truth. We don't know exactly how much he knows because he dead, right? But Reddington is no, this can't happen. This isn't a thing. And I think if it went over 2 episodes and had more of a discussion between them, it would really have given that urgency to Reddington that Sam is actually gonna do it. Because after Reddington said no, it kind of felt like Sam was okay, well, maybe I won't.
This is something that I think, we really want to hear from you guys in the comments about just how much did Sam fully know about Reddington's secret? Was he fully, eyes wide open about every single thing who Reddington was? Because this is the other big point of frustration that I have with a lot of this. We have a lot of these big lore episodes of The Blacklist, whether it be, Rosvet, whether it be the stuff in, season 8 at the very end of all that before Liz gets killed. And it's just sort of there's so much we learn about, though, in there. Sam is just not, he doesn't come across as that important. We don't have that much backstory on Sam. And yet, I still feel like he knows probably a lot. He probably knows almost everything.
Right. And where I land on it, and yeah, again, you guys let us know where you land on it, but I think he knows some. I think he knows enough that Reddington's willing to kill him over it. But if he knew everything, and Reddington not only let him live all this time, obviously he trusted him to keep the secret while he's the father of Liz. Somewhere in these, 30 years or 28 years that, he's been around or raising Liz, there would have been multiple opportunities that Sam could have woken up one day and been like, today's the day. She needs to know everything. She deserves to know the truth, because it feels like this probably isn't the first time that this has crossed Sam's mind. He's her father, and he, keeping things from her is difficult for him. We saw him keeping that, he has 6 weeks to live. He doesn't want to, worry her or hurt her, whatever. But over all this time that he's been raising her, there's multiple opportunities that he could have come up with some reason, something happened that triggered him to be like, today is the day. And that means that Reddington had to have trusted Sam for decades to not tell. And because in this one episode, he's like, today's the day, I'm about to die, I'm going to tell, he decides he's going to kill him over it.
It's just frustrating. Like, I understand the emotional significance of this episode. It shows us a lot about who Reddington is. Like, all of that, I fully get. I don't always relate to Elizabeth Keene on this show. I know that's probably a big surprise to anyone who has seen all of our other reviews, but I have never been like, I want answers in like the Liz demanding way, quite in the way that I am with this episode and with Sam.
I want answers. Listen, I've been watching this show for almost 10 seasons. Who is Reddington? And listen, I know that there are obviously people that believe that Reddington is Katerina, and there was definitely a lot of smoke all over that. It is a possibility, but until I hear Reddington be like, I am fill in the blank here, which we will probably never get, then it's still up to interpretation. And I've never really enjoyed it's up to you guys, the audience, to kind of figure out what you want the narrative to be, like the ending of Blind Spot. I just want a clear answer. But I think that the biggest takeaway for me from this episode is how the lengths that Reddington will go to keep this secret, because him and Sam have a very close relationship. Obviously, Sam knows something, if not everything, about this secret that he's kept for all these years. He, respects Sam. He loves Sam. Sam's the person who raised the person that he loves in Liz. And he's still like, no, you gotta die. Like, even if you bring up a whisper of telling my secret, you're done. And it really lays out the groundwork for the rest of this show.
It's hugely significant from a stakes perspective, and I will give them all the credit in the world for that, even if I'm still mad that they did it so fast. But okay, let's talk about General Ludd here for a second. Yeah. Not that I think that like Nathaniel Wolf or General Ludd is all that interesting. It's basically just like, okay, this is the Blacklist version of Mr. Robot. It's like, we don't need to spend that much time on this, but it's sort of like, okay, there's a chance to me that we see Nathaniel in some capacity again in season 10. And really, it just comes down to a couple of things in my head. Like, number one, nostalgia. I'm sure they want to bring in some more people from season 1. We already had that with Wu Jing. The other part of it is just like, okay, what's the other factor here? What's the motive? We know that General Ludd here, this organization, they do hate the government. Maybe they just hate the idea that Reddington, a master criminal, is working with the government on some level. Maybe he's part of like the evil industrial complex at this point.
It's possible. It's a stretch. I mean, for the most part, I think the people who are in jail are mostly unlikely to be sort of part of the Marvin list or Wu Jing's list of people. Like, I think they'll be on the list, but I don't necessarily know if Wu Jing's going to go to the people in jail to be like, hey, by the way, this, let's prison break you out and we're going to deal with this together, sort of thing. Unless it's someone maybe like, the General Ludd, because there is a bigger organization that maybe Wolf can reach out to other people in his organization. The bigger thing is, it's kind of like, is he going to really feel betrayed by Reddington to be like, how dare Reddington? Like, they just don't really have enough of a relationship that he's going to be like, yeah, Reddington's on my crap list.
I feel like there's probably, like, let's just say, for example, season 10, there's like 10 or 12 more blacklisters from the past who were brought back at some point. I don't know if Nathaniel's going to make the cut of like the 10 to 12 people I would be the most excited to see again. I will just say that.
Okay, let's also talk about Sam's death, in that this did really bring Liz and Reddington into a more intimate relationship, because we had Reddington basically be the one that tells Liz that her father is dying, because he's told her, oh, I'm just in for tests, whatever. And she's like, took it for face value. Okay, you're in for tests. Cool, man. When I can get out there, I'm going to get out there. He's like, no, it's not a big deal, whatever. And Reagan's like, hey, man, I'm really sorry to hear about your father and that the cancer's come back. Yeah. And she's like, hello? What are you talking about? He's just in for tests, sort of thing. But by the end of all of this, where we see that, she didn't get back in time. All the flights were grounded except for Reddington, because he flies private and he can do what he wants.
Yeah.
She's unable to get back and he dies. And we see this moment at the end where they're sitting on the swing set and he's kind of like, listen, like, I'm really sorry. And, I can be here for you. And, I want to be here for you. And she starts to open up to him, and they really are having like really their first intimate moment where their relationship is growing in a more emotional way.
I think the reason why this scene works is just because Reddington, no matter who Reddington is, whether he's Katarina, whether he's, Reddington's secret sibling, but whether I'm Reddington, it doesn't really matter. What matters here, yeah, plot twist, everybody. No, what really matters is that Reddington has experienced a lot of death. He's experienced a lot of tragedy. He has lost people. He knows what these feelings are like. I think he is able to relate to Liz in a way that he really hasn't in a lot of the rest of the show, where he's coming to her from the vantage point of this criminal, this person who's been a criminal for decades on end. And I think this connection is really, it's important here in at least establishing a baseline of how these two can work together moving forward, even if Reddington drives Liz completely crazy, and understandably so at times.
Yeah, okay, let's get into the Tom of it all.
Right.
So even though Liz couldn't get there, Tom found a way there. So we'll just kind of suspend disbelief on this here for a minute. And he's there, he gets there and is told that Sam is dead. And I'm kind of like, nobody called Liz? Like, nobody from the hospital.
No.
Clearly, Sam has passed away. Nobody has actually called his next of kin, the person who would be on his emergency call list. I get that she can't get out there, but the hospital's phones work. So they didn't actually call her. I found that really weird. And instead, Tom shows up and they're like, oh man, we're really sorry. He's passed away. He's outside, and we have this moment with Reddington where, when even like back then when I first watched the show and you saw Tom's face, he knew who he was sitting beside, and not like it's Raymond Reddington, the wanted criminal. I'm like, oh, these two know each other, and they know each other well.
It's a fascinating conversation, because it's like, here are these two people sort of going through these motions of knowing where they are, knowing what they kind of can say and can't say. And it's also like the writers not wanting to give away too much. So it's just sort of like, we need to have this scene be believable as these two quote unquote strangers talking well enough. Yeah, like you said, you can tell that something is off when they're having this conversation without even knowing what's coming up. But it is really, it still left you in that spot where you were questioning, and you're like, am I really crazy for thinking this?
No, it felt like Tom's first look when Reddington sat down and he looked at him. He didn't look at him like a stranger. He looked at him like he knew him, and then kind of had this look on his face like, crap. Here we go.
So overall, our big takeaways from this episode: the hospital sucks. I think we can make that very clear by everything you have just said with their lack of communication. We needed more Sam. We needed more answers on Sam. Nathaniel's probably not that important, but hey, they've killed a lot of the other blacklisters or rendered them impossible to come back at all.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
All right, well, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We have a lot more Blacklist rewatch videos coming your way. Follow us on Instagram at Matt and Jess TV, and we will see you here next time.